This is Volterra's Roman theatre. It was constructed in the second half of the 1st century BC, dedicated to the reigning Emperor Augustus. And it's important also to note that we're not looking at an amphitheatre, but a theatre. Now, today we use amphitheatre a lot for outdoor arenas, but in ancient Rome there were theatres and there were amphitheatres, and they were different things. A theatre was always a half circle. A theatre was always used for plays, and the theatre was the most common form and place of entertainment throughout the Roman Republic. Only in the 1st century AD will you start to see amphitheatres, amphitheatres, doubled theatres. So the form is different now. It's a circle, or more commonly even an oval, and it's used for lots of different types of entertainment, but mostly blood and guts entertainment. It will come to pass that people will think, why would you want to go see a boring Roman readaptation of a Greek tragedy when you could go watch a guy bash another guy's brains in? And so theatres will get abandoned. That's why it's so rare and so special to have this theatre still remaining here in Volterra. Now, the theatre had a seating capacity of about 2,500 spectators. The wealthy, the noble, the patricians sat closer down to the stage. The average Joes farther up, just like today, I suppose. When you get to the bottom of the sloped half circle, there's a flat half circle, and that was called the orchestra section. That's where the guests of honor would sit, so people like the Emperor Augustus. Augustus seems to have liked this theatre of Valle Bona here in Volterra, considering its acoustics to be the best in the empire and also one of the most beautiful theatres as well. This theatre is also remarkable because it was the second ever Roman theatre built in stone. It's not out of a lack of resources or interest, but it's against the law in ancient Rome to build stone theatres. The Senate passed a law saying, we welcome donations and we recognize that patrician families are almost always donating theatres to their city. But we don't want them making grandiose, permanent constructions as donations. So theatres, yes, continue donating them, please, but make them wooden, temporary structures. And so it would be for centuries until they find a loophole. And that loophole is to point to another Roman law that says wherever you have a temple dedicated to Rome's Capitoline Triad, you have to have stone stairs leading to that temple to correctly honor and distinguish the most important gods of Rome. So what they do is at the top of the cavea of the seating section, they put in 3 semicircular niches. Into those niches went a white marble statue of Juno, one of Jove, and one of Minerva, and there you have your temple. Well, what lay beneath aren't stone bleacher seats for the theater. No, they're stairs leading to the temple. They're doing their duty as good Roman citizens honoring their gods. Well, when they get away with it in Volterra, that's when the rest of the empire will realize they too can do it. And so after this, you will see a flood of construction of Roman theatres in stone. On the back side of the theatre are Volterra's 3rd set of public baths. Now, they were built probably at the end of the 3rd century AD, but they never used them at the same time. And we know that because the baths are constructed taking stones away from the theatre. So for whatever reason, they had already abandoned the theatre. What we see, of course, are just the foundations of what were originally sumptuous rooms with mosaic floors and probably marble inlay on the interior walls. Moving from the theatre back towards the road would have been first the vestibulum, the changing room, followed by the frigidarium with cold water, then the very small little oval tepidarium with warm water, then the caldarium with the hot water, and then off to the right, a circular structure called the laconicum. Now, it was a sauna, and it was so hot in there, of course, you couldn't help but laconically lounge and enjoy this spa-like experience. Now, the Roman baths were so important to Roman culture. It was actually your right as a Roman citizen to access them. This is a great service to keeping people happy and healthy, but also, I think it's important to remember, loyal, because this is what your state provides for you. Anyone except a slave could go to these places, do exercises in the grassy outdoor area, jump into the cold, the warm, the hot water baths. and also hydrate the skin with olive oil that would be provided free of charge, and scrub clean with pumice sand. It's something that I think many people would like to have as a right today, myself included. So after the fall of the Roman Empire, it'll take a few hundred years of disuse in this area, and people will start to realize no one's going to fix it up again. So they start to use it as a salvage yard. They'll take the columns, the capitals, to build the cathedral and many other buildings in town. And then in the 13th century, new walls are built to surround and protect Volterra. It's a time of great fear, uncertainty, so the walls are actually made tighter and around Volterra, making the city smaller. Those are the walls that we see above the theatre today. So with the creation of these walls in the 13th century, the theatre and baths were no longer in city centre, but now outside the city wall. The town then decides, well, isn't this a convenient place to have all the local people dump their garbage? Instead of dumping your buckets of waste in the city streets, please take them and dump them over the wall. So garbage piled up on top of the theatre and baths. A hill formed. By the 1800s, it was pretty clear that no one remembered ancient ruins being beneath the hill. By the 1900s, it was also being used as a soccer field, when we're using it as a donkey racetrack. And only in 1950, after World War II, did a local intellectual get a hunch that the theatre may have been here. He will succeed in convincing the Italian state to give him a permit to do the dig, but he can't convince them to give him financing, not in these post-war years. So he gets creative and finds a group of volunteers. They did a massive operation of land movement, and they did their job technically very well. That may be a surprise if you know that they were not archaeologists. Not even the man behind the dig, Enrico Fiumi, was an archaeologist. He was very good at it, but he made a living by managing the finances of Volterra's psychiatric institute. It was a 6,000 patient large psychiatric institute, the second largest poll for Italy's mentally ill, and that's where he found his volunteers. So we had psychiatric patients for 10 years excavate everything that we see today. And a happy side of the story is that most of the men involved in the dig were actually deemed healed throughout the process and freed from institutional life. Though I'm told that every single one of them, to a man, stayed on to see the completion of the dig.